40, 30, 20, 10. Touchdown.
Snap to Hartman. Here comes the blitz. Looks right, throws downfield. It will be battled for and I think caught. Get it to him. Donovan Green. Touchdown. Wake Forest.
Campus to Canton.
Yeah! Week 6 in college football. Myself, Felix Sharp, Deputy Chris Moxley, and that goddamn Yankee, Austin Ace, right here on the Bettor Sports Radio. Boys, we got a good slate of games this week. Chris, actually, let's give that Yankee, Austin Ace. Austin Ace, what game are you looking forward to first?
Battle of the Big Ten, baby. Purdue, Maryland. I think this one has a chance to have some fireworks. I'm looking forward to Purdue, Maryland.
Get out of here. Get out of here with all that mess. Chris Moxley, tell the people game what we're looking forward to today.
Oh, we are heading down, and we are going to have fun in the Red River rivalry. I do declare.
Right. That is right. That is right. Quinn Ewers, Red River rivalry. This game was a classic last year. That is what we are looking forward to on Bettor Sports Radio this week. The Campus of Canton crew is in the building. A great slate of games today, headlined by the Red River Shootout. Red River, is it? Can we say shootout? Can we say shootout on? Are they gonna get us off the radio? Shootout, boys.
You're running a risk here, Felix. You're running a risk, but I know you're a risk taker, so you do what you got to do.
Oh yeah.
Don't let that carpetbagger tell you what to do.
No, you can't say that on radio. Carpet.
That's what we're looking forward to. Alabama is back at number 1. Paul Chryst is out at Wisconsin. Kansas ranked. Kansas TCU. I mean, what Lance Leopold has done coming from Buffalo to Kansas, a basketball school, and has got them undefeated and ranked for the first time in a couple of years. I don't know where we start here. Alabama's number 1, Chris Moxley. Should they be?
I think so. I basically came into the year thinking that they were the best team in the country. Georgia then proceeded to demolish teams for 3 weeks and then take their foot off the gas. I mean, they played an uncomfortably close game against Missouri after showing a little bit of chink in their armor against Kent State. So, I mean, there's no reason that Alabama and probably Ohio State shouldn't have jumped Georgia at this point. So, yeah, I mean, you can make the case for either Ohio State or Alabama. But since I'm sticking to my Southern roots, I'll go with the Crimson Tide.
Why are we okay? I mean, Georgia just had a hiccup last week against Missouri Road. Also, Georgia dropping. And, I mean, yeah, Alabama was – I don't know. I just don't know if that's enough with how Georgia had been playing. I'm going to give them a little more grace. I think they got athletes there. Are you okay with Alabama being number 1?
Yeah, since apparently I've been cast this morning as the Yankee hater, I don't know that it really matters with the playoffs set
right
now.
You got it right.
Like I know you see people do like some power rankings and stuff, and like RJ Young, for instance, has basically always had one team in his tier 1 and then a couple in his tier 2. But realistically, it's 3 teams. It's Alabama, it's Georgia, and it's Ohio State at this point. And if you want to put Clemson in that group, they've looked shaky, but who's going to stand in their way at this point? I don't really know. But I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter which one of those. They've all looked good. You could switch them week in, week out. Bama goes out this week and crushes Texas A&M. They should stay at 1. If they barely win, Georgia and Ohio State are good enough teams that you could, depending on the week, just kind of shift them around. And I actually don't know why we don't see that more often with college football, with the playoff being here now. Be a little more creative, voters, with your placement of these guys. Be a little different. Why not?
Speaking of different, Lance Leopold is now at Kansas, in Lawrence, Kansas. Used to be a basketball, still is a straight-up basketball school. Mox, I mean, we're getting a lot of new listeners here. Can you give us a summary of who this guy was and the program that he built at Buffalo and what he's doing now? Lawrence, Kansas. And not only is he doing a good job, but that's a fun team to watch with Jalen Daniels at the helm.
It is a fun team to watch. So Lance Leipold actually has a really interesting background. He was I believe, 3-time national championship at Wisconsin. Yeah, 3-time national championship winner at Wisconsin Whitewater before going to Buffalo. Really successful coach at that level. Goes to Buffalo, builds basically that program up. Very fun MAC team. Jarrett Patterson was on that team. Kind of just built around the running game. Just a fun team. Gets hired builds the program up. Then gets hired for this Kansas job. Turns it around in 2 years. I mean, the end of the season, they were awesome last year. They beat Texas in overtime on the game-winning kick. I think they won 57-56. It's a really fun team. It's a really good team. I don't think they're going to win today, but the turnaround that he has done at Kansas is part of the reason that you're hearing him considered for these big name jobs in just 2 years. I mean, just an incredibly impressive performance he's done at both programs.
I think it says a lot about Lance Leipold. Players transfer with him. Think about Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly just went from Notre Dame to LSU. Did he have anybody follow him to LSU? I don't think so.
Count,
it was like
if you count the quarterback, I mean,
yeah,
he was, but who was uncommitted. By the way, he just might have committed to Notre Dame instead. So not really.
He tried.
Yeah, they was like
he tried.
Don't let the door hit you on the way out. So okay, that's it. Goes to saying that it seems like Lance Leipold's players like playing for him, and they've got a local kid from Lawrence, Kansas, in Devin Neal, who we've been high, a running back, who we've been high on at campuskid.com. You're going to be able to see him he's a 2024 class eligible. Austin, who is Devin Neal? What's his skill set? What do you like about him? Why should people pay attention to Devin Neal?
Yeah, he probably should have been ranked higher. He's one of those kids that in hindsight, I bet some of these recruiting services wish they had that one back. Crazy athlete. You talk about some of the athletic measurables. He has close to a 40-inch vert, at over 200 pounds in high school already. Like he was already a well-built kid here. I forget exactly what his 40 time was, but it was a very good, or he had very good sprint times. Like all these athletic measurables that you really like to see. The thing hurting him is he's from Kansas. And he's from the University of Kansas's backyard. And once he committed to Kansas, we know how some of these things go. The services, I think sometimes they assume that if a player commits to a school like that, they aren't very good. And they maybe didn't have other realistic options, even though they may have offers sitting around. But I think he was better than that. He should have been a top 15 back in the class. Probably he wasn't. They have a pretty good stable of backs there, though. That's what Leipold kind of likes to do. He really, has 2 or 3 guys that he leans on. But he's, in terms of NFL quality, I think he's the one that teams will like the most.
And they have an injury too. I was gonna say they have an injury to Hinshaw, who's his backfield mate. So you might see a big game out of him today.
Week? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he's out. So this might be a week to actually, if you're not familiar with Devin Neal, this might be a week to come check him out because he'll probably get a bigger share and you can see kind of what he can do. So he's an exciting player. I agree.
Safe to say that he's a guy that's going to be drafted in dynasty rookie drafts here, not in 2023, in 2024. Yeah.
I don't think he'll ever be a top tier guy. I think playing at Kansas basically eliminates you from that possibility. We've talked a lot with Sean Tucker, is like a nice analogous guy at Syracuse here. Has had some really, really productive years there. Very good athlete, NFL size. Will the NFL like him because he went to Syracuse? We're going to end up having the same discussion about Devin Neal, but I think they're both very good players, and I think they will be drafted like regardless, and I not like the 7th round either.
So is Kansas football just underrated? Period. Because Breece Hall came from Kansas too. Very similar profile, right? Like just wasn't hyped up. Went to Iowa State, which you don't really consider a powerhouse as much. I mean, Dave Montgomery. This is before Dave Montgomery kind of entered the league as well. But Breece Hall's from Kansas.
Graham Mertz from Kansas also.
You're not
okay. Breece Hall is from Kansas. But you just wonder if backs that come from there, that it's not a great football state. The quality of high school football there is not very good, generally speaking. You just wonder if there's guys that kind of shine through that should be propped up higher. And Neal could easily be one of those guys too.
My mentioning of Wisconsin quarterback Graham Mertz in the same conversation with Breece Hall almost killed Austin Nace here live on the radio. All right, boys. I want to move here to – we've had some coach firings, some high-profile coach firings. Paul Chryst gone at Wisconsin, which, I mean, surprised me. They're not having a good season, but Paul Chryst has been just fine. I don't know what you can expect for there. But I think that we've got some others on the horizon who could be fired. But before we get to that, I want to play some audio from the Paul Feinbaum show yesterday. You know how we do things here in Texas, and Jimbo Fisher is on the hot seat. But just how hot? Let's play that sound.
As far as Jimbo's contract, that $90 million contract, it's a lot less than that. Thank you, and have a great day, Paul.
Have a great.
Feinbaum sits there, if you watch the clip, for like 10 seconds after that and says nothing. Like he's looking around behind the scenes like, oh, what?
Joe George, our producer, please find us a hitman so we can ask him if to confirm that. Well, I'd like to talk to a hitman today and see if we can see how much it would cost to put a
If you have any hitmen listening, please call in.
Yes,
please
Call
download
in.
the Bettor Sports app. Call in. Let us know what the price would be on offing a Power 5 blue blood head coach. Jimbo Fisher, Austin. Well, let's set the foundation for this discussion here. 95. It is a lot cheaper. It should be a lot cheaper than $97 million. They paid a lot of money for this class. They have high expectations at Texas A&M, down there at A&M. They lost to who? App State at home. Their offense is terrible. They're not changing. Do you think that this could happen? Do you think that we could see Jimbo Fisher be fired from Texas A&M, even with that heavy buyout?
Well, BetMGM now has odds as to Jimbo. So no, I don't think so. And I think they have 85,950,000 reasons to not fire him, which is just a ridiculous number. I'm referring to his buyout. When Jimbo got his new contract a year or two ago, it was a $100 million contract or $95 million contract, fully guaranteed. I guess maybe if he kills somebody or something, it's voided. But other than that, he's getting all of that money, whether he coaches through the end of it at 2030 or not. So I know that Texas A&M has this crazy stockpile of oil money. It's been the whole storyline behind their NIL success this year, how they've managed to secure the highest rated recruiting class of all time. But I don't think that they could stomach an $86 million buyout at this stage. I think before it comes to that, they'll make him give up play calling duties. I think they'll make him bring in somebody to kind of overhaul that offense, which he's not had success with. I think that will be the first step. And it wouldn't shock me if that happens this off season, and then they give him another year or two going that route. And then by 2024, it's a much more manageable $67,550,000 buyout. So, just chipping away at it there, and maybe then you see it.
But Mox, did he even deserve to have this contract in the first place? I mean, I feel like we're giving Jimbo credit, a whole lot of credit for that one national championship that he won with Jameis Winston at Florida State.
I mean, that was always a very successful team, though, under Jimbo. Should he have a $95 million guarantee? Is maybe a little bit different question. You don't really see that guarantee, and it drops $9 million every year. So it's not like you're getting a discount anytime soon if you want to fire him. Yeah, I don't know if that guarantee is really worth it. But I mean, that's the price you're going to pay for a high-end coach if you believe. And they took him they took him from Florida State. Like, it's not like he was fired or anything. They said, okay, this is our guy. We're going to pay you whatever it takes to get you.
So this was not his original deal, though, Chris. They gave him a deal.
No, they did.
He did nothing, and then they thought it was a good idea to give him this deal. Like, they got eyes on him in A&M.
Yeah, that's true.
And then gave him this contract.
So when was the last time Jimbo did not call plays? I'm asking. I don't know either, because he's been calling plays, I think, since the 2006 LSU team, where he was offense coordinator for Nick Saban. I mean, that's how long Jimbo, I think, has been calling plays. And at some point, like, your offense ain't working, dude. Your offense hasn't been working for a long time. So is he going to actually swallow the ego and his pride and hire an offense coordinator? I think he'd rather just be fired than hire an offense coordinator. And why not when you can sit on $85 million?
Do you think that they would try to use that as grounds to fire him for cause?
Ineptitude?
Refusal to hire an offensive coordinator when he's been ordered to do so. I think we could see that storyline play out, where you're going to hear reports like they've been speaking with legal counsel to determine if they can void this contract over his refusal to hire an offensive coordinator. Like, I could see us hearing that story 10 months from now.
How bad of an offensive coordinator do you have to be having this conversation? Play caller, sorry. To be even having a conversation about legally voiding your $95 million guaranteed contract at a Power 5 program, a high-end Power 5 program, nonetheless. How bad of a play caller do you have to be to even have this conversation? With, mind you, a top 5 recruiting class almost every single year, and the best recruiting class ever last year.
The play calling has been poor, I think, but I think their other issue too is they have not done a very good job of talent identification,
or development
also goes down to him. Hey, the guy in charge. They say we've gone back and forth in this for years, Chris, about Jimbo and his quarterbacks, how he's had a couple drafted in the first round, but none of them have. Jameis is the best one, and I liked Jameis coming out of college. I did not like Christian Ponder very much coming out of college, and I certainly didn't like Kellen Mond, who already got cut by the Vikings like a year after they took him on day 2. I think he brings these guys in. They're talented. He doesn't really do anything with them, like development wise. They get the NFL still likes them because they have this upside and they come from big programs, and then they basically flame out in the NFL. I think you can definitely point to a pattern of that with him, and it's continued at A&M. I mean, Haynes King, upside. This kid can run like a deer. Just wait till we teach him how to throw. That hasn't really happened yet. They brought in 5-star Connor Wegman this year. They might be forced to play him because
you might see him today.
Because Max Johnson, who was the other guy competing for this job, is hurt. He hurt his hand. He might be out for the year. And King is just terrible, man. Like he's gotten worse.
He's been injured a bunch. So, but I mean, I don't think that's really an excuse considering the just total lack of development we've seen from Jimbo's offensive skill position players. He's put linemen in the draft, and at Florida State, I mean, he was developing running backs like Dalvin Cook, Devonta Freeman, like those guys were going. And like you said, he got 3 quarterbacks drafted in the first round: EJ Manuel, Christian Ponder, Jameis.
None of whom
we haven't seen that at Texas A&M at all. He's
my prop.
Yeah, he's ruining kids' careers. If you want me to just say it.
When I think of the coaches that command or should command these high dollar contracts in the NCAA, Nick Saban. Think about what Nick Saban that he could actually have an offensive juggernaut and what they've been the last few years with Steve Sharkey's in there. Ryan Day, even had Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson. But Jimbo has never had like some sort of elite offense. Really, I don't even think that they were considered elite when they had Jameis Winston and
they were pretty good that year. They were pretty good that year. Yeah. They averaged 38 points a game or something that year. Like they were a pretty good offense, but it was the ACC, and again, it took a quarterback that was taken top overall in the draft, an all-pro running back, a wide receiver who had like 1,000 yards as a rookie. Like those are the kind of pieces that he needed.
He also had Jalen Ramsey on that team too, so it's not like it's not like the offense totally carried them. I mean, this was they were great on both sides of the ball. Which have we seen that from Texas A&M yet?
Well, we're going to be watching them again because I mean he's got to be on the hot seat if they lose again. It's not looking
What's
good.
what's the price of oil right now?
Right. I think it's a virtual guarantee that January, and that's Brian Harsin at Auburn. Expectations. Brian Harsin, who came from Boise State, was a coordinator there. He actually played at Boise State, head coach there. He was kind of known for running game going, but he had no. You look at his coaching record. See recruiting in the South, any of that. It seemed like an odd fit at the time. It's been an odd fit now, and he's taken a bit of a scorched earth mentality against the school's administration, who didn't really fully endorse or support him coming into the season. We thought that he would be fired last year. Austin Ace with Oklahoma and Texas joining the SEC here soon. I got to think that Auburn is going to want to make a splash with a head coaching hire. This guy has to be the last year for Brian Harsin.
Yeah, the problem I think Auburn again is buyouts, and it's not this particular buyout, but it's cumulative buyouts. I mean, they just had to buy out Gus Malzahn a couple years ago. I don't know how willing they are to $8 million or whatever isn't a ton of money for these schools, but if you keep doing it over and over again, eventually folks get tired of paying that. So I think that's going to be the big issue there for Harsin. But yeah, I mean, I think this was always an uninspiring hire. I think that's a good word for it. Like you said, Felix, no track record here in the South. No really recruiting track record to speak of at all in the SEC. I mean, that's like, if you're hiring a guy as your head coach and they're not known as a big time recruiter, I think you're already putting yourself in a huge hole, especially at a school like Auburn, where you have to compete in state with the greatest college football dynasty of all time, with the greatest college football head coach of all time, who will crush any rival put in front of him. I think that was always kind of a recipe for success. I don't remember anybody thinking this was a good or a great hire when it happened. I don't think this is hindsight talking. I think this has just always been a rough one.
Going from
Mox, we thought that Brian Harsin would be able to get the running game going there at Auburn, because he had the season with Jay Ajayi at Boise State. He gave him over 300 carries. Jay Ajayi was a third or fourth round pick, ended up having an RB1 season in fantasy in the NFL. Jeremy McNichols was a very talented running back, Boise State under Brian Harsin, and he's got a very good player in Tank Bigsby. Got Jarquez Hunter there. Tank Bigsby is probably going to be a third round pick in the NFL draft in the 2020 in this coming draft, but he hasn't been able to get them going. Haven't been as productive as we would expect.
Yeah, I mean, they had a bunch of transfers this offseason too on the offensive line. I think they had 18 transfers out of the program. So like that kind of speaks to, I think, the health of the program, but it also depleted their offensive line, which is not very deep. I mean, outside their starters, there's concern about the rotation behind them. That was a concern coming into the year. It wasn't really a secret among Auburn, the team. So I think that's one issue. But when you bring a guy from Boise State to Auburn, I mean, how many times is that really going to work, man? Like, think of Lance Leipold, for example, right? Wisconsin Whitewater, Buffalo. Now he's at Kansas. He's in Big 12. That's not even near the same jump. Going from Boise State, which was a great program, absolutely. He built it up and did a fantastic job, and it was very successful under his tenure. I don't think he was ready to come to Auburn. He needed like a middle tier job between Boise and Auburn. And maybe that's like Colorado or something.
If he had like played quarterback at Georgia for 2 years or something and won an SEC East championship, and this was like him working his way up the tree, then I could see it maybe being, an adequate hire. Like, he spent 2 years at Boise, was always a hot name. He's 34. You knew at some point that he was going to make the jump to a big program, and then he did it that way. But as a guy that played at Boise State, was a grad assistant at Boise State starting in 2001, then a tight ends coach, like, kind of worked his way up the ladder there. Like, that does not scream SEC coach and SEC coaching pedigree at that stage. So that, like, I think there are guys where maybe that could work if you're kind of that young hot shot with connections. But he was definitely not that.
Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking with this hire at the time. I remember it not being very popular among really everybody for the reason that you mentioned, Felix. I just don't understand. And they wanted to buy him out last year. If you don't know the full story, uh, the only reason that he's still the coach at Auburn is because they couldn't muster up the buyout among the boosters. That's the only reason he's still the coach at Auburn. They do not like him. They did not like the hire. Very unpopular among the alumni base and the people cutting the checks, basically. So that is a big reason that Brian Harsin is employed, because they wouldn't pay the buyout. That's it, because he would be gone.
We talked earlier about Lance Leopold having 8 or so players transfer from Buffalo to Kansas. Well, with Brian Harsin, I think that they had 18 players. I think it was 18 players transfer out of the program last year. They almost had Tank Bigsby, their best player, transfer out of the program. So people don't like him. I remember his first year, he was not getting along with the media. He a lot of good things to say about him. He's going to be out after this year. All right, folks, let's get into some Heisman futures here. Chris Moxley, I'm GM. Okay, you got the Heisman for your boy Will Anderson. In the summer, it was plus 2,000. It is now plus 10,000. It is now plus 10,000 for Will Anderson. What do you think about them odds?
So I said last week I wasn't really ready to throw in the towel quite yet. I'm getting pretty close, though. The Alabama defensive line is putting a lot of pressure on quarterbacks. Will Anderson still has like 5.5 sacks, like a sack a game, but he needs to get 17, 18 to get there, and he's just not on pace to do it. So I'm a little worried that we're not going to get there with Will Anderson. And his odds have dropped clearly, and that reflects it. I mean, that's just a good, well-rounded front seven from Alabama. I mean, they got Dallas Turner, they got Henry Toto. I mean, there's a lot of places that front seven succeeds, and they don't need to rely on Will Anderson. So he isn't playing like a game breaker, game wrecker role every time. He's being doubled still. And, we thought Dallas Turner would take some of that off of him. And I don't think Dallas Turner has played his best ball either through 5 games. So maybe if Dallas Turner gets going a little bit more, and they have a true freshman on the defensive line that I forget his name right now, who's playing pretty well too. But Anderson just hasn't had the opportunity, despite getting the pressures and whatnot. He just hasn't put up the counting stats. You need counting stats to win this award as a defensive player.
Yeah, you do. The other odds here, C.J. Stroud plus 150, Caleb Williams plus 400, Bryce Young plus 900. That was plus 350 in the summer, now at plus 900. Hendon Hooker went from plus 6,000 to plus 1,300, Austin. I mean, I don't know. Who do you like amongst these names? The other ones, Adrian Martinez, Blake Corum, Stetson Bennett is plus 2,000, Jahmyr Gibbs plus 2,000, Jalen Daniels, who we talked about with Kansas, plus 4,000. I like the finalists are going to be Caleb Williams, C.J. Stroud, Will Anderson.
I think Hooker can get there because their schedule is so tough. It's a double-edged sword. If you lose all those games, obviously doesn't help you out.
Win one.
But yeah, they get what in the next couple of years? They get Georgia, they get Alabama, they get LSU this week. They have another one in there as well, I believe. Kentucky.
They get Kentucky, yeah.
Which, I mean, whatever. But I mean, they're ranked highly, so he has a lot of chances to kind of get signature wins under his belt. He's going to have the statistical excellence, which is a large part of it. Tennessee back as a narrative behind you is definitely not a bad one to have. I think it's what Quinn Ewers is going to be hoping to have behind him next year at Texas if they kind of do what we think they can do. So I think all those things are very powerful for him. I think he can make it. He just can't lose. He has to go through those. Well, he has to win today. He definitely has to beat Kentucky. And I think they have to either beat one of Georgia, Alabama, or they have to play those games extremely close, and he has to play basically mistake-free. They lose 38-35 to Georgia on a last-second field goal. but he has 400 yards of total offense that day. And you can't point to Hendon Hooker and say they lost this game because of him. Like, I think if that's the kind of pathway for him, but I think his path like that, Will Anderson's not going to be there. There's almost no chance, I think, unless he just gets hot. He's not like toast, but I don't think he makes the final group.
Any players outside of the names I mentioned that you all like that we're not thinking of? I don't know. Maybe JJ McCarthy could get hot here for Michigan and be a candidate down the stretch.
I think Jahmyr Gibbs is kind of interesting. We saw his breakout this week against Arkansas. If Bryce Young's out for a couple games, and I think he'll be back against Tennessee, so it might all be moot. Did I use that word right? I think I used it right. Whatever. I think Jahmyr Gibbs might have a case. I mean, the Alabama running back, how many times have they won the Heisman, right? Like Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram. These are guys who consistently end up at the ceremony and a lot of times win. Jahmyr Gibbs kind of interesting. He's plus 2,000. I'd definitely take him over some of the guys that are around him. We briefly talked about Caleb Williams too. So he's plus 400. He's third, right? Or is he second currently?
He's second. He overtook Young now. Yeah,
he's second. So the interesting thing about Caleb Williams is that I think USC needs to win the Pac-12 for him to end up there. And I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't. That team is going to come crashing soon. That team is going to have a very bad loss in the near future because they're just not playing great defensive ball. They're having the Iowa curse, which is just a bunch of turnovers helping you win games. And at some point, luck's going to run out.
How about this one? I think this could be the year. Bo Nix, he's improved so much. New offense. He's focused. He's having fun.
Stop.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's a dark horse for the Heisman. For anybody not familiar with the internet memes,
this is the year.
But Oregon's 4-1, and he's, from a production standpoint, been very, very good outside of the Georgia game. I'm just saying. I think he's a better bet than Jahmyr Gibbs.
Does Oregon beat Utah? Because they lost twice last year in pretty devastating fashion.
So here's the thing. If they win that game, what has changed like on offense for Oregon? Bo Nix, and that's it. They did nothing on offense last year. So I think there's a chance if he can do some things here that he's for fantasy wise, like it's just what we spend a lot of time looking at. He's been lights out, a ton of yardage, touchdowns. He's rushing, he's passing. This offense looks much improved from last year. So
they haven't really played anybody, though.
They haven't. But I mean,
except Georgia, and we all kind of saw what happened there.
Yeah.
Felix Sharp, Austin Nace, Chris Moxley, the Campus to Canton crew here on Bettor Sports Radio. Red River Shootout today. We're taking you all the way up until 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 7 a.m. Pacific Time if you are listening to us on the West Coast. I want to move here to playoff futures. We've got, let's see, Georgia at plus 200, Ohio State at plus 206, Alabama at plus 214, and then the get a little bit more value. Clemson plus 1,200. That's the one I would want. They're going to be there, and they're going to run through the ACC, aren't they?
I mean, you would think so, right? I think a big test is going to be. I think the UNC game is kind of interesting because the UNC defense stinks, but I think their offense can score on Clemson, so that's going to be a pretty interesting game. But I mean, I don't know who Clemson's competing with at this point. I mean, I don't think Miami's any good. NC State didn't really give them the game that I thought they would. So, yeah, I mean, I think Clemson's in the playoff. I just don't know if Clemson could beat any of the big three, which is Ohio State.
Could you see Notre Dame? Could you see Notre Dame giving them a game? Like they're the only team left on the schedule that has kind of the athletes. They're not great this year. They're definitely not Notre Dame like that we think of this year, but that feels like a game where Notre Dame really is like chippy and hangs around longer than maybe they should. And when that happens, you never know.
I think UNC is a better shot. And I don't think UNC's is – we just saw UNC and Notre Dame play. Notre Dame waxed them. But the game that UNC plays, which is high tempo passing, they probably have a top 5 quarterback in the country currently in Drake May. I think they have a shot to upset. I think that's the type of team that can upset Clemson because we just saw it with Wake Forest, and they almost pulled off the upset. So I think those high tempo, high powered offenses, that's who gives Clemson the run for their money, and maybe not a defensive battle. Because if you're going into a defensive battle with Clemson, you're going off against 5 future first rounders. How many teams could say that? Notre Dame probably has 2, maybe 3. I mean, Isaiah Foskey and Brandon Joseph, if you like Joseph that much.
Yeah.
But I just don't know if you want to play a defense off. That's the concern that I have with Notre Dame. I think UNC is their real. And I mean, what do you think the spread on that UNC games opens at? 17.5?
Yeah, that's somewhere in that range. 14.
And I think you take UNC there. It is very unconventional because I don't think UNC is nearly as good as Clemson. But that's the type of team that I think Clemson can trip up against.
DJ Uiagalelei the past couple of weeks has been playing very good football. He's a player we had high expectations for coming into last. He didn't meet. He started off the season slowly, but the last 2 weeks, he's been tossing it around a little bit and looking more comfortable. If he matches, if they can score with as well as that defense is playing, it's a top 5 defense in the country. That's a team that's going to be right there at the end of it. They're going to get into the playoff, and they can get to the championship game. I like them, Austin, at plus 1,200.
Yeah, why not? I mean, I think they're pretty much a lock to get in, which is half the battle. And no one has been unstoppable this year. We thought after game 1 or game 2, Georgia were, but I mean, no. Ohio State has had some close games. Georgia's had some close games. Alabama's had some close games. I don't think there's a team that I'd point to this year and say that's just an unstoppable force. So why not?
Download the Bettor Sports app. Get in here. If you're at the Red River Rivalry, if you're in Dallas today and you're tailgating, getting ready for the game at 12 Eastern, let us know what it is. You got OU, you got Texas. We got Texas. My friend Chris Moxley, that Yankee Austin Ace. I don't even know who he's watching today. Probably some Indiana football team or some Northern team. We're going to go to break here, and we're going to come back. We're going to get into the games. We're going to get into starting sits. We're taking you to 10 a.m. Eastern. Corey Tom Casale will follow us. It's Felix Sharp, Austin Ace, Chris Bettor Sports Radio. We'll be right back.
The cards. I got 2 things I want to bring up, and I got them ready for the show today.
Sure.
First of all, I don't know if you ever played this Topps Home Run Challenge game.
No,
like
I
a genius.
haven't.
So I'm in love with Adolis Garcia. So basically what you do is you scratch off the back, right?
Yeah.
And it gives you a code, and you go and you punch it in, and then you have to pick the game that he's going to hit a home run in, right?
Oh, okay. I never heard of that before.
And then if you do that, you get like a special limited edition card, and it's limited to how many people actually picked he would hit a home run that month.
Cool.
And then you could double down. If he goes over 425 feet, you get like an extra special card.
Yeah.
So I went on eBay, because I like Adolis Garcia, because all the rest are big names. I got 6 of them, and I totally forgot to punch them in. So I got the plan. I think they're coming up Colorado soon or something.
There you go, right there.
I have a month left to punch in 6 Adolis Garcia home run cards.
There you go. Congratulations.
We can do that live on the show if you'd like.
Sure.
Here's the second one.
Okay.
And I think you're gonna like this. I was at Target, and they had Garbage Pail Kids. And
that's pretty cool.
It was Garbage Pail Kids Bookworms, it's called, and it makes fun of book stuff. This is one of the greatest cards I've ever got in my life, and I'm trying to probably buy more. You see
Nice,
that there?
That's pretty dope right there.
It's
That's
Winnie
pretty dope.
It's Winnie the Pooper.
Yeah,
and he's
that.
pooping on. Look at that.
I like that. That's dope right there. That's clever, Nando. You know,
This is the best card I've ever seen in my life. It's worth
when I was
$1.50.
going to elementary school, right, in the Washington Heights area in New York City, you used to walk down Broadway, and on Broadway and 150th Street, it was a dude. You would go in there, and he used to sell you know what I'm saying? He used to sell the Garbage Pail Kids in the morning before we go to school. So
Nice.
Everybody was in that store buying Garbage Pail Kids. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool right there. Yeah, just get that. So
the card
I'm up to deal with the Garbage Pail Kids. I think that's pretty cool.
It's Winnie the Pooper.
Yeah. When you see the little poop emojis right there too.
It's
That's a cool card, Nando. Yeah,
Right? You can get it for
Uh-huh.
like $2.
I like that.
I don't know why. It's my favorite thing in the world right now. I don't even know what to do with it. Like, I want to hang it up on my wall or something. Like, it's just so. Who comes up with Winnie the Pooh pooping on? Winnie the Pooper.
I like that.
I gotta find something. They even have the balloons the same color as like the actual Winnie the Pooh cartoons.
I like it, Nando. That's sweet.
Anyway,
That's
sorry.
clever.
I just wanted to share that with you. I'll never grow up. That's there'll be old man Corey. Wait a minute. Hey, turn your bass down. I'm going through my Winnie the Pooper collection.
Turn that NBA young boy down. I'm trying to do a show over here. What's going on? No respect. All that boogity, 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 all loud.
Better Sports Network. It's sports talk. Sports talk done better.
As far as Jimbo's contract, that $90 million contract, a hitman costs a lot less than that. You have a great day, Paul.
Campus.
We need callers like that. Felix Sharp, Austin Ace, Chris Moxley, Better Sports Radio. It's the Canton crew here with us. If you've got a suggestion, a more reasonable suggestion on how to handle Jimbo Fisher there at Texas A&M, download the app, call into the show. Everybody's got to be safe, though. Be safe. All right. If you're to us for the first time, people don't understand that we are actually playing college fantasy football. That's what Campus to Canton is. Campus to Canton is the name of this show. Campus to Canton is the name of our website. Campus to Canton is the name of a fantasy format where you have a college team and a college roster. And so we're starting Bryce Young and CJ Stroud and Jackson Smith and Jigba and Caleb Williams. We're starting all these guys. And then when they declare for the NFL draft, those players move over to your NFL roster. So we're playing the most immersive form of fantasy football out there. We care about recruiting. We care about the games on Saturday. And what's a better way to spend your weekend than playing fantasy football the entire weekend, not just on Sunday? We're getting action. We're getting betting in. We're getting fantasy in on Saturdays and Sundays. You got to check out CampusToCanton.com. You got to check out Campus to Canton, the fantasy football format. All right, let's get in here to some starts and sits for the day. We're actually playing these players. Austin, I'm going to come to you first with the quarterback position. Conference play, game starting to tighten up just a little bit. Who do you like starting today at the quarterback position?
Yeah, I'm just going to completely I don't like what you said there. The notion that as conference play enters here, it tightens up, because it doesn't in the MAC, which is where we're headed today, boys. The MAC. MACtion, famous because they play basically every night of the week once you get further into the year here. No defense in this conference. Actually, you are not legally allowed. I believe the conference rulebook says that you cannot field a defense. So we love all of these quarterbacks. You basically can't play any of them, or a lot of the time you can't play them out of conference, because to keep their departments alive, the athletic department, they have to play Oklahoma and Georgia and Alabama, and they get paid for the right to go get spanked. Although we've seen a couple of those teams pull off wins this year. But now that it's in conference, we like all of these guys a lot. We really like someone like Colin Schlee. Yeah, Colin Schlee. That's a real person's name. He's a quarterback at Kent State. They're going up against Miami of Ohio today. Really dynamic kid. He can beat you on the ground. He can beat you through the air. Fun name there. Daquan Finn. Yes, that's a real name. That's a real person. He's quarterback at Toledo. They take on Northern Illinois today. DJ Irons. Sounds like an old school linebacker, but he is a quarterback. He is a real person. He plays at Akron. They take on Ohio today. John Paddock. And that sounds like a guy that signed the Declaration of Independence, but he's a real person. He actually plays quarterback for Ball State. They take on Central Michigan today. So these are some of the names that, now that we're into this conference play, they're going to put up big weeks every single week. I could have snuck a fake name in there. Felix would never know. But no, I can assure you, all real names, all real people, and they're going to put up real points today.
Chris Moxley, do you have some real players that these folks can pay attention to and start this week?
I was also going to go with the MAC. But seriously, I was going to focus on Colin Schlee because this Kent State team is fun, man. Kent State scored 24 points in regulation last week. You know how many yards of total offense they had? 744. Only scored 24 points in regulation. They're going to drop a 40 burger this week or a 50 burger. I'm really excited about this Kent State team under Colin Schlee. They have a great running back in Marquez Cooper. Really fun. 40 carries last week. And he's like 195 too. He's not your traditional bell cow. They got
receiver with like 300 yards receiving last week.
Yeah, they have Dante Cephas, who is I think he had like 240 as well last week, 235. They also have a kid who's pretty athletic on the boundary, Devontae Walker. This is a pretty fun offense, and the defense stinks. So you're going to get the offense going back and forth, and that'll be a fun game. The Miami of Ohio quarterback is pretty interesting too. Not a really great passer, but he's a rusher. His name's Avion Smith. Pretty good, pretty interesting player. How about that? But yeah, that's a game that's fun.
For someone who's not paying attention to the MAC, do you have equivalent for even to a Power 5 quarterback for Colin Schlee, so someone could understand the style of player that he is and why we should watch?
I don't know if I have one. Austin, do you have a good?
That is the worst, most difficult on-air question I've ever heard somebody ask somebody else.
Hey, this MAC quarterback who's been playing for, who has 4 starts under his, but I want to compare him to the previous MAC quarterback that was at Kent State, Dustin Crum, who I don't know if he's actually on an NFL roster. He might be on a practice squad, but
he's a dual threat scrambler, right?
Yeah. Do you have a good comparison for him?
I mean,
Mr. Lawyer, don't ask a question you don't already have an answer for. Come on.
Yeah, you got an equivalent, man?
He's on the Bryce Young, Caleb Williams spectrum. No, he runs around tossing it out there, right? He's a fun player to watch.
How big is this spectrum?
Yeah, this is a huge. This is like
it's a huge spectrum.
Where does Dollar Store buy their stuff from so they can sell it for $1? That's like the brand of Bryce Young or Caleb Williams that he is. But he's a good college quarterback, and in
very fun college quarterback
where they don't play any defense. Like, yeah, it'll work. It'll work.
Yeah. I mean, if you're starting him in fantasy, man, you're going to get a top 5. You're going to get 45, 50-point games from Colin Schlee this year, multiple times. I mean, this dude's going to rush for 80 yards, 2 touchdowns, and throw for 350. Like, that's who Colin Schlee is. Fun player. Not quite sure I have a comp for him. Not really sure he's on the Bryce Young spectrum. I think maybe we need to dial that back a little bit.
I'm being mocked and ridiculed on my own show here on Campus Canton Radio. The guy I'm starting today is Cameron Ward against USC. USC, okay, so you got USC versus Washington State today. These are 2 teams that are going to try to score a lot of points. Their defenses, actually, Washington State's defense isn't playing terribly this year, but they like to spread the ball.
It's a good unit.
It's a good unit, but these are 2 teams that play the same way. Spread it out, throw the ball all around. There are some draft nicks out there who are starting to peg Cameron Ward as a potential first-round draft pick. Cameron Ward transferred from Incarnate Ward in Texas to Washington State, along with his head coach, Eric Morris, who is now the offensive coordinator for Washington State. Eric Morris has been an assistant under Cliff Kingsbury when Cliff Kingsbury was at Texas Tech and coaching Patrick Mahomes. He's been an assistant under Mike Leach. So he has, that spread, air raid, those spread and air raid routes. And Cameron Ward, if you haven't watched him, he likes to run around. He likes the off-platform throws. He's got a little bit of Zach Wilson to his game, at least Zach Wilson as a college player. He's more like a background football type of player. He will definitely throw it to the other team. But he might have 4 touchdowns in this game, especially one that's going to be up and down. I'm trying to give you folks players to watch. That is a game that I'm absolutely watching today. USC and Washington State. I think it's on the 7:30 slate. 2
Do you think they cover?
Quarterbacks. Do you think that they cover? What's the spread on that one?
You can find it at 13 currently on DraftKings and Bet.
Yeah, I do.
A couple
I do
places.
think they cover. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I do too.
I do. I I would take Washington State in that one. I was right on Washington State at Wisconsin earlier this year.
This has Curse of Iowa written all over it, Chris. You talked about it earlier. What did Felix just say Cameron Ward really likes to do? Throw it to the other team.
How many turnovers does Cameron Ward have today? Over, under 2.5?
Under, but I think it's 2. I think he throws 2.
It's 2,
yeah.
I think he does. I think he's between 2 and 3 as well.
Yeah, like it's almost a certainty.
The funny thing about Cameron Ward is that he'll be slowly, because they rush 3 against Cameron Ward a lot. So he'll have no pressure, and he'll be just slowly strolling to the right, looking at one direction, staring at it, and just throw it to the other team, almost like he's been bought off, like just literally throwing it an interception to someone he's staring at. I don't understand.
Yeah.
Maybe he's colorblind.
Maybe
have we talked about
glasses?
Yeah. Have we talked about Cameron Ward's background on this show before? Because
it's no need not to refresh everybody on him.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting story. And so we're talking about a guy who turns the ball over a lot, but this is also a guy who in high school combined had 100 passes. He played in a wing T offense, under-recruited. I don't believe he was like ranked on a recruiting service. This type of player that we're talking about, right? Goes to Incarnate Ward FCS program and basically beats the incumbent out year one, takes the job, wins FCS Player of the Year, all from a guy who had 100 pass attempts in high school through 4 years. Goes to Washington State, his first year in the program, in a Power 5 conference, playing fairly well. Great arm. This is still somebody with very limited football experience.
Yeah.
Despite, we're talking about how he likes to turn the ball over. Yes, that's true. He still has some maturation to do. I don't think he's coming out this year. But I think if he tidies up some of his decision making and tidies up his deep throws, I mean, we could be talking about a player who is very tantalizing. Lane Kiffin tried to recruit him to Ole Miss before he got Jackson Dart, and he said, "I think this kid's a first rounder." That is the type of player we're talking about.
So, talking about equivalents, and you tried to have us come up with one for Colin Schlee. Cameron Ward kind of reminds me a little bit of Dak Prescott coming out of college. I think there are some similarities there, like a bigger guy, a guy that can run around a little bit, a guy that makes some boneheaded decision, a guy that maybe isn't the best anticipatory thrower. It's not like you think of like a Peyton Manning who knows like exactly where you're going to be at exactly the right moment, and he's going to put the ball exactly there before you've even turned your head. And when you turn around, it's basically sitting there for you. Like, I don't think he's ever going to be that kind of a quarterback, but he has the arm strength and the legs where he doesn't necessarily have to be, and that can at least give him a few years to kind of improve some of those things that he doesn't have the reps as you were talking about. So I think that's kind of I could see him being like a 3rd or 4th round guy, maybe not being drafted as a guy that comes in like right away, but within 2 or 3 years, maybe he competes for a job somewhere at some point.
The only thing I don't like about the Dak Prescott comp is that Cam Ward is more of a freestyler. So that's why my comps would be Zach Wilson, Tony Romo. Like he likes to play out of structure, in my opinion, a little bit more than Dak Prescott. What are you going to say, Max?
Can I compare Colin Schlee to Jalen Daniels? The quarterback at Kansas?
People still don't know who Jalen Daniels is. Yeah.
Well, then I'm going to compare Jalen Daniels to
You said Power 5 equivalent. Okay? I got that they play a similar style of game. I think Daniels is more athletic, but similar enough.
So we've comped Colin Schlee to Jalen Daniels and Dustin Crum. Come on, folks.
Yeah.
We got a national radio show here. We got to be able to comp these players with players that people know. All right. What about sits, Austin Nace? Who are we sitting today, not starting?
Yeah, let's talk some bigger names. Obviously, those are the ones that everyone wants to pay attention to. I think Malik Cunningham is a guy that I'm probably sitting today if I have some other options. Quarterback at Louisville there. He invokes kind of that Lamar Jackson type of play style, wearing the same uniform that Lamar wore. Obviously, we talked about the bargain barrel versions of players earlier. That's he is the bargain barrel version. Got banged up last week, left the game. And it sounds like maybe he's going to play today. Louisville takes on Virginia. But a lot of his value comes from his rushing ability. I think he might be slightly hesitant to do that, and the coaching staff might not want him to do that quite as much, although they're fighting for their lives. We didn't talk about that earlier. So I think he's a guy where, you're hoping for like 100 yards and a touchdown on the ground from him. And if you don't get that, the passing is erratic enough that you don't love that. So I think I'm sitting him today if I have some other decent options. And unfortunately for that coaching staff, if he's not 100%, they might not have a job tomorrow morning.
Mott's?
Yeah, I'll keep it big name too. I won't go to the MAC. Quentin Johnston, the wide receiver at TCU, was widely considered a top 3 receiver coming into the season. I mean, this dude's 6'4", just like a long strider, really athletic, great at high pointing the ball. Just like you watch this guy and you're like, okay, this dude's an alpha at the next level. Been just non-existent this season. And I mean, this is an offense that had 411 first half yards against Oklahoma last week, still just not involved. So I don't think you can play him despite, thinking that he was going to be a first rounder coming into the season, thinking that he was going to be a huge part of this brand new Sonny Dykes offense that was going to throw a bunch, bring it out of the Gary Patterson era of, slow, not really pass and trying to control the clock. So I'm worried about Quentin Johnston. I'm worried about him from an NFL perspective as well. But I mean, you watch this guy, he looks really nice running sprints, but yeah, he's not a player that you can be starting at any point for your college fantasy teams.
He was a legitimate first round, way too early mock draft kind of guy that showed up on a lot of boards here, Chris. What do you think he does this offseason? Like, if things don't get better, I think the logic that he would do well this year was sound. He's been their leading receiver.
It was a given that he would enter the 2023 NFL draft.
Yeah. Yeah, he might not be. I mean, does he go back? Does he try to transfer? Is it just not a fit there? Does he go somewhere else and try to do something there? I mean, what do you think he's going to do?
I've heard the excuse that Dykes offenses kind of funnel to the slot receiver a lot more than they do the outside option, which is partially true. But I mean, you got a guy who I think he'll test extremely well at 6'4", 200, maybe 10 pounds. It's pretty skinny. I think he declares so. I mean, I don't think he's falling outside the second round with that profile. Like, they'll just remember DK Metcalf coming out, and he's not the same level of freak athlete DK Metcalf is, but DK Metcalf had a serious neck injury. He barely played football for like 2 out of his 3 years. And, when he was on the field, he wasn't super productive. And part of that was quarterback play. Part of that was the offense that they were running. He still went in the second round. And he obviously should have got hired. Hindsight's 2020. But I think Quentin Johnston could still go in the second round. So if you're a second round receiver, are you declaring? Probably. I mean, I would think so. I don't know what the TCU NIL game is. I don't know if he's going to make more staying in college or declaring. I guess that's probably what you're considering at that point.
Well, could he get drawn somewhere else? I mean, so think about a school like maybe USC, for instance. They lose Jordan Addison this year. They don't really have like a true alpha.
What about
on
Alabama?
Roster.
Alabama has not gotten any production on their wide receiver.
I think
Jalen Milroe, Ty Simpson next year be a fit for Alabama.
The problem with Bama is I think that they tried that same move with Jermaine Burton from Georgia this year, who was like a guy that was okay within the context of that offense. We thought he a big athletic guy could, like, I don't know, they will take that route 2 off seasons in a row, especially because that receiver room is still extremely young. Like, we're talking about it not producing at all, but really, like, they brought Burton in from Georgia because it's like all freshmen and like 2 sophomores, JoJo Earl and Ja'Cory Brooks, and then they brought in like 6 or 7 wide receivers this year. Like, I think it's Bama, like, you have to win every year, but I also think you have to kind of let some of these guys mature a little bit. And it sounds like they like, Isaiah Bond, who had a couple big catches last week. He's produced this year. Kobe Prentice has produced this year for them. And we haven't even seen a guy like Shaz Preston yet, who was a borderline 4 or 5-star kid. So I think that is less likely.
Aaron Anderson was a 5-star wide receiver.
Yeah,
we haven't seen some of these freshmen. They're all like Jalen Waddle types. They're all Jalen Waddle types of that freshman class. We saw last year with Jameson Williams transferring to Alabama. And then this year, Georgia wins a national championship. Jermaine Burton's on that championship team. He says, I got to go somewhere else to get some offensive production. that was probably a bad decision. I mean, Georgia's offense has been just as good as Alabama's this year. We haven't seen the production from Alabama, and Jermaine Burton, he's probably coming back. So
Jermaine Burton might just not be very good. I think is the bottom line. I still think he only has one 100-yard game in his entire career. This is his third season.
It was that game against Ole Miss, or was it
Yeah.
Was it TCU?
I know it was Ole Miss as a true freshman, and I think it was when George Pickens was out, and he kind of I think caught 2 deep passes and it accounted for. He's basically been unproductive his entire collegiate career. Although he's a really good athlete. He's a really good athlete.
He was the fastest man at the opening in 2019. He ran a sub 4.4 40-yard dash. And for high school, you're talking about Saquon Barkley ran a 4.66. Justin Jefferson in high school ran a 4.78. George Pickens 4.7. Jermaine Burton came into college running a sub 4.4, 38-inch vertical, had all the athleticism, but just hasn't been able to produce at Alabama after transferring. We thought that you're right, Mom. He's just not any good. All right, let's move on here. Oh, I do want one more start. One more start for me. Mayan Williams at Michigan State. They got Michigan State. Listen, you guys can make all the faces that you want, but this is a good player who is backed up. Travion Henderson, who's a Christian McCaffrey, Reggie Bush type. You got this 3-star prospect from Cincinnati who could have gone anywhere in the country. He could have gone to a MAC school and started. He decided to go to Ohio State. He's a 5'8", 5'9", 225-pound running back. So bowling ball, low center of gravity. He runs through players. He can juke players. He is a difficult tackle. He reminds me of a more athletic C.J. Anderson. If you remember C.J. Anderson being on those Broncos teams when they won the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning. Mayan Williams set the touchdown record last week against Rutgers for Ohio State with 5. I think he had over 200 yards rushing. I think they continue to carry. They continue to ride Mayan Williams in that offense. He's someone who can demoralize defenses. Michigan State today, Michigan State's having a down season after being good last year. I think they continue to ride Mayan Williams. So I am starting him, and I wonder what his line is on Prize Picks.
Trey Henderson's back today. That doesn't give you supposedly cause for concern. I mean, I know it's going to be a bloodbath there, but
I think they continue to ride Mayan Williams. I think that they continue to ride him. I don't think that he's a hot hand right now.
So here's a question for you then, Felix. If you think that he has a big day, that they ride him, and that Trey Henderson's back and he's going to get some touches as well, how much of the passing attack do you like today? They have some big names there. C.J. Stroud, obviously the quarterback. We've already talked about him as a Heisman finalist candidate. The wide receivers there are very good, even with JSN out. Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Egbuka, some of these guys. There's only so many points to go around here in a football game.
Yeah, there are only so many points to go around. Ryan Day has been really spreading it out in the receiving game this year. They've got at least 2 first or second round picks at wide receiver. Well, 3. JSN is out. Jackson Smith and Jigba. You've got Emeka Egbuka, who's been playing that slot when Jackson Smith and Jigba has been out. And then Marvin Harrison Jr., who is actually Marvin Harrison Sr.'s son. The thing about the receiving game, Austin, is you only need 1 or 2 big plays to have a big week. And I think that we could see, all 3 of these guys, Marvin Harrison, Emeka Egbuka, and Julian Fleming, all catch touchdowns in this one. Look, I don't know what the line is on this game, but if
it's 27.
27.
Yeah. So
if Ohio State scored
their implied team total.
Would you be surprised?
Well, no, the team total for them is available on DraftKings. It's 46.5 currently.
There we go.
I think they can get to 50 easily. It's a really bad Michigan State defense.
And again, they're a team that's playing with the chip on their shoulder after they lost to Michigan last year, after they didn't get into the playoff with having those, and they have a lot of return. Who are you taking in that one, considering the spread? Michigan State, or I think I'm taking Ohio State.
So if you're asking me to lay 27 on the road in a Big Ten matchup, that's a lot of points. So I personally do not have a play on this game, but I certainly lean the Ohio State side if you want to play it. I think there's a 26.5 out there. And I mean, that's not the worst number in the world, but that's just a lot of points, man. Like, let's see there's a 26, there's one 26.5 out there right now on FanDuel -115. I might play that.
It's
Still
Felix
a lot of
Sharp,
points.
Austin Nace, and Chris Moxley here, the Campus to Canton crew, getting you ready for Week 6 in college football. We're really going to get you ready on Week 6 in college football. When we return, we'll go through spreads, we'll go through the lines, and we're going to have Chris talk a lot and me and Austin talk very little. All right? That's when we come back. Campus to Canton, this is Bettor Sports.
Make bets and follow your fantasy team while you buy, sell, and trade collectibles in real time. Only on Bettor Sports Network.
We got to get a team in Honolulu. Like, what about that, Ray? You think Oakland? Like, nobody's talking about Honolulu for the Oakland A's to move to. How badass would that be to have a Major League Baseball team? Instead, they want to go to like where it's 120 degrees in the desert of Vegas.
Right.
Ray, they should pick up and go to Honolulu. That would be epic right there for the A's.
They could go to Honolulu, and instead of playing 12 games against a team throughout the course of the year, you just play a 12-game set. Just get it done.
What's the flight from the Bay Area? 4 hours?
It's depending which direction you're going, it's 5.5.
Okay, that's not terrible. You'd have to manage the schedule a bit,
right?
But it's doable. Like, you play your West Coast games, and then maybe you give an extra day. Like you play in San Francisco through Sunday, and then you have your Monday off. Everybody gets their Monday off, and then they play, out in Hawaii for 4 games. Then they come back for the weekend.
It's very similar time-wise for us in California, in the Bay Area, to go to Hawaii as it is to go to New York. It's very similar. So, yeah, like you're saying, Giants do that to go to the Mets. The A's do that to go to the Yankees. They do it, so it would be very similar.
They would be they've already got the baseball background. I mean, they're dominant. The island loves their. Ray, you could even rebrand the team from the Oakland A's to the Oakland Lays. You can do the Lays, Ray. Look at that.
Good. That's actually, there's no way that would ever happen, but that's pretty good, Kyle. On the fly.
I'm giving away like free marketing right here.
Good work.
Right on the show.
The plan is for them to stay here, but the fans hate them. I don't know if the city likes them. They can't. I mean, it's embarrassing. I don't know. The plan
There's
is
a lot of land in Hawaii. Just think about the views, Ray, of the Pacific. It would put your crap ballpark in San Francisco to shame. Like, everybody thinks that's a good view.
Right.
They'd have like waterfalls and real palm trees and the Pacific Ocean.
People
like,
trolling fire in the 7th inning stretch.
Make the Giants Park look like, the vet in Philly. It would look that awful if they moved to Hawaii.
And then you go to your flip-flops or shorts. They serve Mai Tais. They give Lays away. Or, the first 5,000 fans, whatever.
Well, everybody in the chat room loves it. Every time I get a compliment, I don't bring it up on the show.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I don't want to be that guy.
Call, chat, enter contests in real time. It's Sports Talk 3.0 with Bettor Sports Network.
Here's Ewers, winds up, lets it go. Worthy! Hey, got it inside the 5!
Campus to Canton.
Yeehaw! That Yankee also here on Saturday morning, getting you ready for Week 6 in college football. You hear the Texas Fight song. That means we are getting ready for the Red River Shootout. The Red River Shootout, boys. I need to issue first retraction here on Bettor Sports Radio. We've just gotten some credible sources. We spent all that time talking about Mayan Williams and how he's going to do all this stuff against Michigan State. Mayan Williams is out today.
College injuries.
Reports. College injury. For those who don't know, you don't get injury reports in college. You find out at 5 minutes before the game starts.
They have somebody out there with a telescope, like he's not on the field for warm-ups. Like that. That's how you find out that a guy is not playing that day.
If you find out.
Practiced all week. Not out there.
But we have some credible sources inside that Ohio State program. We're hearing that Mayan Williams is going to be out. So start Travion Henderson. Our bad. We spent all that time. We wasted 5 minutes. Download the app. We've got you until 10 a.m. Eastern. Pay attention to Homecoming with Corey Parson and Tom Casale. If you are tailgating at the game, at the Red River Shootout, call in, download the Bettor Sports app, hit the fun button, call in button, come talk to us. We're going to get lines today. I want to start with that Texas OU line, the Red River Shootout. Minus 6.5, Texas minus 6.5. Chris Moxley, I think I like Texas in this one. What say you?
I think 6.5.
Wow.
More.
I was gonna say, is there a 6.5 out there? I see a 7.5, but if there's a 6.5, I am just smashing that, man. We talked about the return of the king. Queen Ewers is back. A show favorite, Queen Ewers. Mullet Man, Joe Dirt, however you want to describe him, he's that dude. This is a good Texas team, and I think it's better than people realize. They have two freshmen starting on the offensive line, and these two freshmen are probably their two best players on that line. Calvin Banks is just I'm not sure he's allowed a sack all year. This dude is awesome. The Oklahoma front seven stinks. I mean, 119th in line yards, 98th in rushing explosiveness. I think Bijan Robinson, Texas running back, has a huge day. They got tore up last week pretty bad. They allowed 6.2 yards before contact. 9.8 yards per rush attempt. I mean, I think Bijan has a big day. And the Oklahoma secondary is pretty beat up too. Billy Bowman probably isn't playing, and he's their best. I think he's the best defensive player. He's a safety. They have two edge rushers who I think are going to be out, Marcus Stripling and Shane Witter. So that concerns me because I don't think they're going to be able to get pressure. And again, I talked about this Texas offensive line. I think they're playing pretty well. If you watched the Oklahoma TCU game last week, you saw just a bloodbath in the first half, right? 668 total yards allowed, 479 first half yards, and 41 points. That is the most points Oklahoma has allowed in the first half since 1996. I think Texas could crush Oklahoma today. And I'm surprised the line is still where it is. I think they could go in.
I mean, I'm looking at Vegas Insider, but I'm looking at ESPN, and they've got it at minus 8.5. So
I'll play it up to 9. I'll play it up to 9. Straight up.
Somebody in the chat has it at 8 points, and that's what I'm seeing as well.
Yeah.
So
that's where it was this morning. It's been kind of hovering. So it opened at 2.5. I think the assumption was that Dylan Gabriel, Oklahoma quarterback, would probably be back. He's not going to be. Their backups aren't very good. Queen Ewers, then it steadily rose to about 7. Queen Ewers was announced that he'd be back and starting. It rose to about 9. It's kind of come back down a little bit. But yeah, whatever number you get it at, sub 9, I mean, that's a play for me. And I got it at 7 like immediately when the Ewers news came out. But I mean, you played up that number up to 9. I think Texas just could pretty handily wins this game.
Austin, I think Quinn Ewers versus whoever's going to start at OU today is worth more than this 8.5. I mean, I'm going Texas here.
We're gonna pick this game later. So I don't want to give away necessarily all of my reasoning here, but I don't love picking these rivalry games like this. Like it's not like a 17.5 point spread or something that would really make me worry, but weird things happen in this game. Do you guys remember this game last year? Texas got up big at the half. They benched Spencer Rattler. They brought in Caleb Williams, and Caleb Williams went Super Saiyan, and they scored like 30 points in the second half, and they won this game. Like it's just a weird game. So I do think Texas is going to win, and I do see scenarios where Texas just absolutely kills them for all of the reasons you guys are mentioning, not to mention like Ewers unlocks the deep passing game, which Oklahoma got shredded on last week. Like there's a lot of things to look at in this game. I think that Texas definitely has an upper hand. I'm just not counting out weird stuff happening. I can't do it. I can't do it.
It is a rivalry game, and you can't count out weird stuff happening. But we'll talk a little bit more about that one later on. Chris Moxley, I want to go to TCU at Kansas. We talked about this Kansas team a little bit earlier. I see the line at -7, TCU -7. What do you like in this one?
Yeah. If it's at 7, that's maybe a little bit different than I see a bunch of 7.5s currently. I don't know if I can find a 7, but if the 7's out there, I think that's a play on the TCU side. I think TCU might crush them, to be honest. I think TCU could win this game by like 14 to 21 points. I think so. The last 2 weeks we've given Kansas as a pick, right? We've had Kansas against Duke. We won that one. We had Kansas beating Iowa State, won that one. We're off Kansas this week. This is the week to shift to the other side. The TCU offense is second in explosiveness. They are a really excellent unit, both on the ground and through the air. Kansas defense ranks 99th in explosiveness and EPA per play. Their defense has not really been good in the trenches, 124th in line yards, which means that their defensive line is basically not doing what is asked of them on each play. I brought up the number for the Oklahoma defense, but it applies to this TCU offensive line, 6.2 yards per rush before contact. They just exploded last week. Their average drive distance against Oklahoma last week was 44 yards. That's pretty impressive. Both these teams are actually undefeated against the spread. This season, TCU is 4-0, Kansas is 5-0, but I think Kansas is actually getting too much respect after being disrespected the entire season. I think you go with TCU, especially if you get it at 7. Little warier if you're getting over 7.5, because this Kansas offense is still like an incredible unit. So I don't want to discount them. I just think TCU might run away with it a little bit. And their defense has been okay. TCU's better than last year's, certainly.
Austin, TCU -7.
Yeah, I actually am following a very similar thought process here that Chris is. I think Kansas has been overrated because they're a feel-good story. We were talking a lot this week amongst ourselves. Like they shouldn't have won that game last week. And no. You know, a sign of a good team is like they win games they shouldn't. But Iowa State, like they missed a couple field goals. Like they definitely outplayed them for large stretches this game. Kansas did not move the ball that effectively. I don't think the defense they're playing this week at TCU is as good of a defense as Iowa State. But like I think they did get exposed in a win last week. I don't think they're as good as everyone. Their best win is Duke.
You don't think it's West Virginia or Houston? Those are good teams.
Yeah. So no. So I mean I think everyone pushing to have them as like a top 20 whatever team. I think that's a little much for me. Yeah, I think there's a chance that TCU takes them out behind the woodshed in this one. I power rate
TCU as a top 15 team, and I power rate Kansas as a top 60 team. Like that's kind of where I'm at on the Jayhawks, and maybe I'm waiting priors a little too much, but I need to see the Jayhawks in this matchup before I get them above there. And that's good for Kansas though. Like Kansas is usually a bottom 20 team in the country, bottom 15. Them in the 60s is pretty good, but there's still a lot of questions about this team. And Kansas is ranked, that is true, but they are not.
The audacity of this man, Chris Moxley. If you're in Lawrence, Kansas, hit that call-in button.
Call in. We can debate.
Debate Chris Moxley. Tell him why he's wrong. He's got you as a top. You're undefeated in Lawrence, Kansas for the first time since 2010. Chris Moxley has you as a top 60 team. He's got you losing on at home.
60 spots higher than usual.
The nerve of Chris Moxley here on Better Sports Radio. Let's move on here to Tennessee, LSU. Mox, we've got Tennessee -3. That's what I've got it at. Tennessee's 3-1 against the spread this year. LSU, who do you like in this one?
So this is such a weird game, right? Because so if LSU loses last week to Auburn, what do you think the spread in this game is? 4.5, 6.5, right? It's probably still under a touchdown, but it's definitely not under a field goal. That's my thought. LSU should have lost. They had a 7.6% post-game win expectancy, and Auburn had mistakes, couldn't finish drives. Auburn should have beat LSU last week. They had 5, count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 second-half passing yards from Jaden Daniels. Tennessee's going to score in this matchup. They are missing depth in the secondary. Sevyn Banks is going to be out. They're missing Mason Smith on defensive line, who he's not their best defensive lineman, but again, a really solid one. I don't like this LSU offense. I don't know that they can keep up with Tennessee. So Tennessee under a field goal is a 100% a play for me, and you can get that on Fox Bet right now. There's a little bit juice, so it's minus 118. But I mean, I'll probably still play him at 3. I just don't trust this. I just don't trust this LSU offense to score. You can't have 5 passing yards, man. Like in the second half of a game against Auburn, and it's not like so. Jaden Daniels met with his receivers this week to get on the same page. What page you getting on, dude? You are 2 for 15 on 15+ yard passes against Power 5 opponents this year. Buddy, you can't throw deep. What are you going to do? Like, how are you going to beat? Where does Tennessee lose this game? And I know the issue is it's in Death Valley. And if it was at Neyland Stadium, I think I'd take Tennessee by $1 billion. But it's a little scary. Tennessee. Let's talk about this. Robbie Ashford, who I think we've talked about on the show, Auburn quarterback, can't pass at all, pretty much. He's not a passer, he's a rusher. 337 yards against LSU last week. That's scary considering Hendon Hooker is probably 20 times the passer Robbie Ashford is. Tennessee, a passing offense, who is first in passing success rate, gets an LSU secondary, 118 the pass explosiveness. I just don't see how Tennessee loses this game. The concern is it's in Death Valley. That's the bottom line. That's the only reason that this game is under probably 7.
Tennessee at LSU, that's on the 12 o'clock slate of games. We just got word that Malik Cunningham, the starting quarterback for Louisville, is out.
So the spread in that game is 2.5, and Louisville's favored. They go against Virginia. Do you still play Louisville? I mean, I'm really so. I think you watch.
Backup? I don't even know who their backup is.
I don't know who their backup is either. But I can tell you, he probably isn't very good. But I mean. So I'm going to watch that line actually, because I think if it moves to UVA plus like 3, I'm probably going to play Louisville. Or UVA minus 3, I'm probably going to play Louisville plus 3, because I think Virginia is really, really bad. So I might play Louisville if we get like a field goal on the other side.
All right, let's pull back the curtain here a little bit. I'm driving the ship today, and I'm going off script, off of the show sheet, just throwing Mox these games. But he's got some lines that he actually loves today, some bets that he really, really likes. Moxley, why don't you give us the plays today that you are really fond of?
Yeah, so we've been having a lot of success with our kind of
8-1. Oh, let me. I'm sorry. Let me back up. 8-1 last week, the All-American play. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, 8-1 last week. We had a killer week. Our loss was Missouri, team total under 13.5. They just kicked a bunch of field goals against Georgia and kind of smashed. I think that was over in the first half. So bad luck there. All of my plays are actually G5 plays, and I want to kind of take a step back and explain why that is. So when you compare this to the NFL is very, very sharp when it comes to setting lines. There's not as much money coming in on group of 5 games at the college level. So books aren't quite as sharp setting these lines as they are in big games. So a lot of the times when we talk on this show, I'll be like, well, I don't have a play in this game because Vegas did a good job setting line in an Alabama game. Of course they do, because there's a ton of money coming in that game. So I think a lot of time, the best bets you're going to make are group of 5 or bottom of the barrel Power 5 teams that there's just not a lot of money coming in on these games. So when I talk about these this week, like we have every week, a lot of that features games that you probably aren't that familiar with, and Vegas isn't that sharp on. That is, I think, where you gain the advantage. I got a couple for you. And this is you want me to start my fishing line? Let me start my fishing line.
Fishing line of the week. Let's go.
Fishing line of the week. I'm going fishing later today. Hopefully catch some red drum off the North Carolina coast. Kent State, minus 4.5. It's line open at 3. Went up a little bit. It should be much higher. I talked about it earlier. If Kent State actually scored their implied points rather than like 24 in regulation and then 31 in overtime, I think this line is like 7+. So 720 yards of 30 yards of offense. Here's why they didn't score. 2 fumbles inside the 10. 3 penalties inside the 10, back them up, then a sack. So they had 4 or 5 opportunities that were just taken away from them where they didn't put any points on the board. I think they wax Miami of Ohio this week. And I think if they actually scored what their implied points were based off their 700+ yards of offense, I think this spread is just too low. And so it's fishy to me because I don't understand why it is this low. I think Kent State could win by double digits. And I actually think this is a Kent State alt line opportunity. If you want to play Kent State like -9.5, I think it's probably at +150. I don't have it in front of me, but it's either, based on it being 4.5, it's probably +150, +145. I think you can play Kent State alt line here. So yeah, I am all in on the Golden Flashes this week. This offense is great, and I don't think that the Miami of Ohio offense could keep up. Mostly because their quarterback, Avion Smith, he replaced Brett Gabbert because Brett Gabbert's done for the year. Brett Gabbert is Blaine Gabbert's brother. He's a 50% completion percentage on the year, 5.1 yards per pass attempt. His best game is 14 for 26 for 119 yards, 0 touchdowns, and interception. You're not going to get it from if Kent State takes the lead. I don't think Miami Ohio can keep up, and I think that Kent State does take the lead in this game, and so I'm playing Kent State alt line, man. That's my play in this game. I love 4.5.
Like
you can play Kent State alt line.
The Red Hawks fans are not going to like you. The audacity of Chris Moxley taking Kent State against my my former head coach at Grand Valley, Chuck Martin. There. All right, Chris Moxley. What else do you like? I love. By the way, let me just be honest. I love your logic on why you're playing some of these games that not as many people are watching. I absolutely trust Chris Moxley. What else do you like on today's slate of games?
Yeah, so that's my favorite play probably today, the Kent State line. I got a few more. I won't go as in depth. I like Tulsa -5.5. This line has kind of been at 6. It went down to 4.5. It's back up to 5.5. It's been moving a bunch. I took it at 6 at open. I thought it would go higher. So closing line value is probably going to bite me there a little bit. And closing line value is just where you take the number and then like what it closes at. So a lot of the time, Kent State opened at 3. Took it at 3. It's going to probably close at 4.5 and 5. So 1.5 closing line value. Great. Tulsa, probably we're not going to get that. And I think this line could be a little bit fishy too. I think the Tulsa offense is legit. Davis Brin was injured last week, but he came back to the game, and I think he's going to be probably healthy enough for this one. Are we forgetting that Navy lost to Delaware week 1? Because I feel like this line forgets this. Like, this Navy offense isn't very good, and they had a great win last week, and that's what's propping them up. And I don't think they're quite as good as the win they had against ECU as the line indicates. So I think Tulsa -5.5 is a really strong number. I like that under a touchdown if we're getting it. I like the UTEP money line as well. I played UTEP all last year, picks up. They were our team, riding them. I think we were we played them on the alt line a bunch. It just cash. I've been against them this year for the most part because I didn't think this team was quite as good. They lost a couple pieces on defense, and defense was kind of what they thrived on. Dana Dimble, their head coach, good defensive mind. I'm taking them on the money line today. I think they are a better team than Louisiana Tech is. I don't think Louisiana Tech is very good. I think the wrong team is probably favored in this matchup because I still kind of like their quarterback, Gavin Hardison. I think they have 2 good running backs in Ronald Awatt and your boy.
You're making up names.
Anyway, I like
Haskins.
Haskins. So I like this. I think the wrong team is favored in this matchup. I got a Power 5 play, actually. I lied. I do have one. Ole Miss Vandy under 61. So Ole Miss they still play at a fast pace, don't get me wrong, but they're running the ball at an incredibly high rate, the highest rate that we've seen from Lane Kiffin in his entire career, actually. And so I think they keep this game pretty close. Their defense has played a lot better this year compared to years past. I don't think Vanderbilt can keep up to get to this 61. So I think this is good to probably play this 59.5. But you don't have to. You can get it 61 at a bunch of books. There's some 60.5s out there, and I think it's going to keep falling before game time. Final one. And you don't have to play this. I'm not begging you to play this, but I think there's value.
Now I want to.
It's gross. It's disgusting. You don't even have to watch this game because I don't think this game comes on until like midnight. Hawaii plus 23.5 against San Diego State. Now Hawaii is probably the worst team in the country, or them or FIU. I don't know who is the worst team in the country. And FIU is so bad that Connecticut's almost a 7-point favorite against them. So Hawaii should not, any team should not be favored by 23.5 that San Diego State plays. San Diego State is still bad. San Diego State is not a good team. They're probably a bottom 30 team as well. I don't think 23.5 points, that's a lot of points to cover in this matchup. So you don't have to watch this game. You just make the pick, go to sleep, wake up, and see that Hawaii covers 23.5. That's just too many points. Just too many dang points, man.
Austin, I like
gross,
to just
gross though.
Austin, I'm going to just give you a standing ovation for that segment. You're awesome. You're awesome. Take a
right
bow.
Right back at you, buddy. Right back at you.
I was at least throwing the assist.
Throwing the assist. So we had somebody in the comments ask about USF Cincinnati, Chris, at the 27-point line right now. How do you feel about that?
It was 28 earlier in the week, and I liked it more then. But I think USF can cover that. I mostly think they can cover that on the back door. If you want to play it, what's the best number I can get on a first half Cincinnati right now? Because that's how I would play it. Cincinnati first half, I see a 16.5. Oh, I see is 14.5 available on DraftKings right now?
So I'm trying to look at right now.
Yeah, I think so Cincinnati 14.5 first half. That is the play. And I add it to your card, man, because I think Cincinnati could be victim to the back door. So I'm going to play them first half. Cincinnati first half, 14.5. It's on DraftKings. I'm on board. Thank you, kind commenter. I like where your head is at.
Mox, can I ask you just about one more Power 5 game that folks are going to be watching today? I see Washington State at USC. It's USC minus 13. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, so this opened at 13.5, and I really liked it then. And it came down almost 10.5 during the week. It's back up. We talked about Cameron Ward a bunch and kind of his backstory, but I think that Washington State can keep this close. 2 touchdowns, almost 2 touchdowns. I personally played Washington State plus 13.5. So 13, I mean, that's not a big gap between the two numbers where I don't not want to play it. So yeah, I'll play Washington State 13, just because I think the offense could keep up. I think the USC defense isn't the only thing that's sustaining them currently is these turnovers. The bottom is going to fall out at some point, and Washington State isn't that bad of a defense. So yeah, and this game is at USC. I wish it was in Pullman, Washington. It is not. But yeah, give me Washington plus 13. I think they can keep up.
Austin, you've been really critical of Cameron Ward really from the outset. What do you think about this one? A big game, Pac-12 matchup, Washington State on the road. They're getting 13. Who do you like in this one?
Yeah, actually, I kind of agree with Chris. I have been critical of Ward because I think for a lot of the things we talked about, he's not a very good deep passer, and for years, Bo Nix has been the guy you point to. This guy just does the dumbest stuff I could ever possibly imagine at the quarterback position for a P5 quarterback. And Cameron Ward might have taken that mantle. He had 2 plays last week where he scrambled around for 5 to 7 seconds at least. It might have even been longer than that. No real pressure. Rolls to his right. He's right-handed. It didn't not rolling left. Rolls right-handed and throws it 30 yards downfield without a receiver
to a defender who hasn't moved, who's just standing there. Yes. And it's just is he throwing it to me?
And I think those kind of plays can be backbreakers in a game like this against USC, where you think maybe we're picking up momentum, and then Cameron Ward does that, and it just kind of kills it. But I do like them to cover 13 because I think they'll slow the game down enough. They're a run and shoot offense, but it's not it's small chunk plays, 8-yard pass, 6-yard pass, 9-yard pass, 12-yard pass. It's not like they're consistently pushing the ball downfield. It does chew up clock a little bit, and they can run the ball as well. They're not a great rushing team, but they can do it a little bit. So yeah, I think they can probably cover that, but I don't think they'll win this game.
No, I don't think they can either.
No.
And both of those interceptions from Cameron Ward last week came in the end zone. Backbreaker interceptions. All right. When we come back, we're going to talk more about these games. We're going to get into prize picks, player props. So stay with us. Download the Bettor Sports app. Call into the show. Talk with us. Chat with us. If you're tailgating for the 12 o'clock slate of games, if you're drinking, we want to see what you got on the grill. Atmosphere is like. Hit us up if you're in Dallas for the game, for that Red River shootout. It's Austin Nays, Felix Sharp, and Chris Campus of Canton on Bettor Sports Radio.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com.
I think it's hard to judge Daniel Jones. He's got no offensive line and he's got no weapons. So, he still made a couple of bad decisions this year, but it's really hard to judge him. And that's the difficult part for the Giants. They have to figure out if he's the guy. How can you make that assessment when he's throwing a Kenny Golladay who can't catch anything?
Jones in a shotgun set. Back to throw. Has time. Fastball to the right side. Golladay makes the catch, but then he fell down and he never controlled it. It's incomplete. He tried to run away from the defender and he dropped it.
Richie James, look at this. It is bad. They really need Wan'Dale Robinson and Kadarius Toney out there. And even then, it's still not enough. And I believe Daniel Jones is the most pressured quarterback in football. And it's going to be hard for him to have success.
Corey Nando and Friends, presented by Mayo Media.
What can we say about 5 more passes batted at the line by Baker Mayfield? That's 12 for the season. I've never seen anything like this. Last year's leader had 17 for the entire season. Mayfield's on pace for 51, and the Panthers barely throw.
Thank you. They barely throw. They don't make no explosive plays. They can't do nothing offensively. But when you look at this team, they ran 51 plays yesterday. They had 220 total yards. They ran the ball for 40 yards. They threw the ball for 180. On the throws, it was under 5 yards a pass. They are using their short passing game as a running game, but it ain't going nowhere. There's no explosive plays from anybody. Baker Mayfield's a dog, and that was just a terrible display of football. There was a reason to boo. There's a reason to be calling for Rule's job. There's a reason to want everybody out in Carolina because that thing is pitiful.
Lunch Money with Kyle and Ray, presented by FantasyGuru.com.
We are hearing reports, Ray, that people felt this was so unfair and so dastardly that people are changing rules and allowing folks to remove Kamara from their starting lineup. You cannot break this rule. This is lousy, Ray, and I hate the precedent that some people are setting with this.
Later on, the commissioner said, oh, yeah, sorry, you didn't get up at 6 a.m. today. We'll allow you to make a switch. Sorry. If you're mad at something here, you don't get mad at your league, you don't get mad at the rules, you don't get mad at your commissioner, you get mad at the bloody NFL, who I have said all along, what are we doing here? Why are we trying to take over the world?
It's just bad luck, Ray. This happens a lot, doesn't it? It just doesn't happen with the likes of Alvin Kamara. You got to be awake when the actives and inactives come out.
But again, if you want to lay blame, it's the NFL. Why is the NFL playing games that the majority of the people in the United States aren't even awake for? What are they doing? Isn't it our league? North America's league, or is it Europe's league? So if you're mad at someone, you're mad at the NFL.
To Canton.
Felix Sharp, Austin Nace, Chris Moxley. The Campus to Canton crew is hanging with you tonight for Week 6 in college football. This is a crazy slate of games. NC State at Clemson, the Red River Shootout, Texas at Oklahoma, Tennessee at LSU, TCU at Kansas, Texas Tech and Oklahoma State. Those are 2 good teams. Ohio State is probably going to try to dump truck Michigan State, Utah at UCLA, Western. One of my favorite games, Western Kentucky at UTSA. There should be a lot of points scored in that one. Mayan Williams is out. Malik Cunningham is out. We've got you for another 20 minutes until homecoming with Corey Parson and Kinsale. And then we're going to our YouTube channel, The Tailgate, at 10:30 Eastern Time. Lots of good games today. We got a caller on the line, Luke Probasco. Why don't you talk to us, man? What's going on, Luke? Luke, talk to us. Talk Campus to Canton Radio. Luke Probatsko, you are on. Talk to us, man. Who are you paying attention to today? What's going on?
Hello.
You're on, Luke. What's going on?
All right. First, I'm hearing about Mine Williams. So I want to ask: does that mean Travion Henderson is good to go? Do we think?
Our Ohio State source says yes. Start Travion Henderson if you've got him.
All right, and then my question here is: with the Alabama game today, are we seeing the future quarterback of UCLA today, or what? Or is this the future quarterback of Alabama?
If you didn't hear that, caller Luke says, and appreciate you, Luke. He said, "Are we seeing the future quarterback at UCLA?" Or is he going to be the future at Alabama? That's Jalen Milroe, Austin Ace. Jalen Milroe, who came in last week. Bryce Young, who suffered a shoulder injury at a point in that game, and that win against Arkansas. You got this. May have a little bit of trouble throwing the ball, but Jalen Milroe, who not a lot of folks are talking about because they also have a 5-star freshman quarterback in Ty Milroe today. What do you expect to see from him?
Yeah, I like him a lot. I mean, he was 13th ranked quarterback in his own class. Like, this is a kid with a lot of pedigree as well. This is his second year there on campus. He was a borderline top 5 kid in the class for me because he is a great athlete. Like, if you nobody is quite the 100th percentile athlete that Anthony Richardson is, but Jalen Milroe is probably a 99th percentile athlete for the position. Like, he is that brand of player. He's we were talking this week, like, if you love Anthony Richardson, like, I would go buy Jalen Milroe this week, because if he plays well this week, I think that goes really far to him winning this job next year when Bryce Young leaves for the NFL. They've always got a lot of competition there, but I think if he shows he can do it in a game against a decent Texas A&M team, we crapped on him earlier, but they're not they're not terrible. I think this helps him out a lot. And we saw last week the flashes, how good of a runner he is. He broke off like a 70-yard run against Arkansas. And if he plays poorly, he might transfer out. And that's the UCLA part. Chris and I both independently and separately on different shows have said, can you imagine him with Chip Kelly? I think he would be a great guy there for them. So joking aside, yeah, I think this is a big game for him. It's a big game for Bama's future. And I think if he plays well, then I think we see him hang around there for a couple more years.
Alabama has 3 quarterbacks who are in their top 25-ish in our rankings, consensus rankings at campus2canton.com. You can check those out. Bryce Young, Jalen Milroe, and then Ty Simpson, who's very much a scrambler, improviser, who's going to be a lot of fun to watch. He's a 5-star. He was a top 3-4 quarterback in this class.
Johnny Manziel.
Yes, a Johnny Manziel type. Johnny Manziel as an improviser. Luke also asked about Travion Henderson. Mine Williams is out today. We're going to start Travion Henderson, who isn't having the season that he had last year as a true freshman. He's dealt with some injuries, but Chris Moxley, very much a Reggie Bush type. He's the number 1 running back in his class, and I am not hesitating about Travion Henderson today.
No, I'm not either. He's excellent. I think he has a couple things he has to clean up before he goes to the NFL. I don't think he's like a perfect prospect, but he's a dang good one. Really, really good running back. He's the RB1 in 2024. And I mean, it's almost unquestioned. Just really solid pass catcher. Yeah, I really like Travion Henderson.
Let's get into Prize Picks. Prize Picks, folks. Player props. You can go to Prize Picks and enter our promo code C2C and get a deposit match up to $100, I believe. But if you deposit $20, you also get a subscription, or you get a credit towards a subscription at campus2canton.com. If you like our content, if you like college fantasy, if you like our format where you have a college team and those players are transferred over to your NFL team and you're playing. So every week you're trying to go 2-0. Every week you got action on Saturday and Sunday. You need to check us out at campus2canton.com, and you can get a credit towards your subscription at campus2canton.com just for going and depositing on Prize Picks. Use promo code C2C. Promo code C2C. Austin, what plays do you like this week on Prize Picks, man?
Yeah, I actually played a lot of Prize Picks this week. We'll see how it ends up going. Anthony Grant last night fell barely short of his fantasy point line. Kind of hurt me. So the fantasy point line, you said you liked, Chris. Don't shrug at me. So I have a couple here, and I think I have a bunch for like one player, like Bijan Robinson. I like all of his lines today for the most part. His lines currently on Prize Picks 104.5 rush yards. I like the over on that. I like the 125.5 rush plus reception yards, and I think I actually like that a little more than just rush because
Bijan could get 60 or
passes.
70 in one run.
Yes, and he might do that through the air today as well. So I like. Oh, what do we have here? Do we have somebody hopping in here with us? A caller, perhaps?
Well, go ahead and finish Bijan. Go ahead and finish Bijan.
Yeah,
and then
we'll his fantasy score is 22.5. I like the over on that as well.
All right. It seems like we're pretty popular here today. We've got a face ready to come on, a caller. Let's add him in. Let's add him in. Oh, maybe is he there? He might not be there anymore. All right. So
what's up? Oh, there we go.
Oh no, he's there. There he is. Oh,
what's up, boys?
Why don't you tell us who you are and where are you calling in from?
Well, I'm not Derek J calling in from Kalamazoo. Stand up, right? Unfortunately, it's just your boy Matty B calling in from the Red River Shootout. Just want to show you guys a little bit of what's going on here.
Look at that. Matt Bruning, co-founder here at Campus of Canton. He is in Dallas at the Red River Shootout, man. Why don't you walk us around? Give us a tour. Be a correspondent. Do your job.
What do you want me to do? There's not much to talk about. There's big text. I just showed you big text. That's it. We can't get in yet.
I want you
we're out
to
here
grab
drinking.
somebody. I want you to grab somebody and ask them about the game and tell them to download the Bettor Sports app.
Okay, I'll grab someone really quick. Here's the issue. Here's the issue. I am standing here in a Campus to Canton shirt while everybody else is out here in Texas and OU gear. So I stand out like a sore thumb. But here, I'll go find someone.
Grab somebody, talk to him. We're going to do an interview right here live on Bettor Sport, the Bettor Sports app.
Why does every Texas fan walking behind you look like what I would picture a Texas fan to look like?
Because that's what they all look the same. I played
better watch
it. They all look the
same. Lots of Oakleys there in Texas. Lots of Oakleys.
Yeah. So I'm probably going to be screwed on that front because I forgot there's no like actual roof or anything. So like I'm going to be standing here in like the sun for 4 hours with no shades, no hat.
I'm going to choke you if you do not grab the next person
right now. Here you go.
And ask them about the game.
Talk about the game, sir. They can't hear you. They can't hear you. I've got
you interview him. Interview him and let him talk into the microphone.
You want to put an earpiece in?
We got yours.
Yeah, we do. We've got you.
Yours back. We're going to do it. The future's now.
Tell him to give us some horns.
Give us some horns. There you go.
Let's go. Let's go, baby.
Is that good?
Okay,
you good?
Hey, I'll go find a prediction. Let's go. We'll go 35. Oh, let's go 38. 38-17. Texas.
There you go. Quinn Ewers, how many passing touchdowns?
I'm gonna go Quinn Ewers over under on. I'll go with four tutties.
Do we see Nick Eversted?
No, the backup for OU?
There you go. Yeah.
Probably not.
Probably not. All right. Is that good, Felix? You stop yelling at me.
Matt, tell him right now to download the Bettor Sports app.
Download the Bettor Sports app and call into the show.
Tell him to give us a hook. Tell him to give us a good hook 'em horns. Tell him to give us a good hook 'em horns.
Give him a good hook 'em horns really quick. There you go.
There we go.
There you go. And then you got OU fans doing the horns down. There you go. Just for you guys. There you go. There we go. Just for you guys.
In Dallas. We are going to get fired with how bad this interview just went. We are absolutely going to get fired.
Look,
Matt.
You guys know I don't drink. And it's early. It's 8 o'clock here, boys.
Matt, I'm going to kick – Matt, listen. I'm going to kick you off right now because that was terrible. But listen, I want you to go get someone and set them up, and we're going to talk to you again and then call back in with somebody who wants to talk about the game, okay?
He's not calling.
We're going to get fired. We're going to get absolutely fired. That's what you can do. You can call in on the Bettor Sports app. If you are tailgating today, if you are in Dallas, if you are watching the Red River Shootout, you can get at us. Hopefully better than that. That was cool. I like that. Add a little bit of
you were 4 touchdowns today.
4 touchdowns, and he said Nick Evers, who's starting for OU, none. Now I'm all discombobulated. I can do that for the whole show. Just walk around and talk to people who are live, which you can do on the Bettor Sports app. That's why you got to call in from wherever you're tailgating at. Let us know what it's looking like there on the scene. Austin, did you get? I can't even go back to you because now my nerves are. I wish I was out there at a game instead of sitting on this microphone. Austin, any other line or plays you like on Prize Picks today? Promo code C2C.
Very quickly, I'll just toss a couple out that I like. I like Blake Corum. I like both of his lines. He's at 20 fantasy points and 107.5 rush yards. I like the over on both of those. I think Michigan establishes the run early. He might not even play the full game, but if they're going to score, he's going to be the guy doing it. I like Jalen Hyatt, the wide receiver for Tennessee in this game against LSU. His line is at 69.5 receiving yards. I like the over there. I liked his reception play earlier, but it went up a little bit. Don't like it as much anymore. And then Jalen McMillan, wide receiver for Washington. He gets about 8 targets a game. He's kind of a PPR machine. That's what Prize Picks is. And his fantasy score is at 13.5 right now. So like a 5-4-80 line gets him right up to it. So I like Jalen McMillan today. Even if he doesn't have a great game, I think he beats that 13.5 fantasy score. All overs today, boys.
Chris,
it's going to be a high-scoring weekend.
Chris Moxley, a promo code C2C for $100 and $29.99 towards your subscription at campus2canton.com.
Yeah, no, I love the Bijan call, especially the 125.5 rush receiving. I think I really like that line. That's a really good call, Austin. I got 2 for you. Peyton Thorne over 22.5 completions. Michigan State is a 27-point dog in this game against Ohio State. They are going to need to throw pretty much immediately to even stay competitive. I think Thorne can get there because they are throwing at a 56% rate currently, which is 22nd in the country in neutral game script pass rate. It's going to be neutral game script for about 5 minutes of that game. And then it's going to be passing downs. And they are throwing on passing downs at the second highest rate in the country. They are going to throw the ball probably 45, 50 times. And if we think that he can complete like 50% of his passes, I think we get there on that 22.5 completions. Second one is Emory Jones, the quarterback at Arizona State, over 14.5 fantasy points. That line seems suspiciously low to me. Washington is 78th in EPA per play on defense. And he's a guy who can get you this on the ground by himself. He could score 2 rushing touchdowns and have 40 yards and get you there. But I think this number is about 4 points too low. I don't think this Washington defense is anything to be super scared of. And I think that with his legs, you definitely can hit this number. And this is just suspiciously low. This is a fishy Prize Picks line for you. So Emory Jones over 14.5.
Betting fantasy player props. I cannot believe that people wait until Sunday to play fantasy football and do it. What are you doing on Saturday? It's way more fun when you're playing on both days, Saturday and Sunday.
You don't have to spend any time with your family on the weekend. You can just watch football.
And no joke, you need to be spending less time with your family. The game selections here, folks. We got to close out. We only have a few minutes left until Corey Parson and Tom Casale take over for us at 10 a.m. with home. If you want to, you can follow us to the tailgate on the Campus to Canton YouTube page at 10:30. Hopefully, we'll talk to Matt Bruning again at 10:30 there from Dallas. But let's get to the game selections here. Austin, I'll start with you. Let's go -8 at Oklahoma, the Red River shootout today.
Yeah, I'm going to take Texas, but I don't feel great about it for all the reasons we talked about earlier. Like, I think Oklahoma could have a little bit of magic that they pull out here, but Texas is they're getting healthy and Oklahoma is trending the opposite way there. So I think I got to take Texas. They win by like 10 or 13 here, I think.
Yeah, I'm on Texas for all the reasons that I gave earlier. I'm also on the Quinn Ewers yardage over on DraftKings. That prop is 268.5. I think you can play that over. Little bonus.
Ooh. I'm on Texas also. The good thing for Oklahoma is that Nick Evers practiced as the starter the entire week. It's not like they had a mid-game.
Is that a good thing?
Yeah, it's a good thing. That's a great thing. But I don't think it's going to be enough. I don't think it's going to be enough in this one. I agree with you that Texas could win this one by plus. And so I am taking Texas in this one. And it should be we almost saw the Quinn Ewers breakout game against Alabama. And maybe this is it. Maybe he picks up where he left off in that game. Had he stayed in that game, I think Texas would have won. They would have won by a touchdown. I mean, they were moving the ball on that Alabama defense, and they had a drop touchdown in that game. Quint Ewers goes out early. I think that we have the Quint Ewers breakout in this one. We would be considering beating Alabama, and they would have beaten Alabama had Quint Ewers stayed healthy through that. Let's move over here to Tennessee -3 at LSU. Chris, you like this one?
Yeah, I like Tennessee. I just don't think LSU can keep up. Again, they had 5 second-half passing yards. Jalen Daniels 2 for 15 in deep passing. I just don't know how they score in this matchup and keep up. Even though the game is in Death Valley, I think you live points to Tennessee.
I'm going to go crazy here. I'm going to take LSU. I thought I was going to take Tennessee until you tossed it to me. In Death Valley, there just is something about LSU there. I know they're really banged up, so I'm probably going to regret this, but I'm going to take LSU.
You could have this touchdown on special teams. You could have a touchdown on defense for LSU. I'm going to take LSU also in this one. Let's move on here to Arkansas. Let's move on here to Arkansas at Mississippi State. Chris Moxley, Mississippi State is -9.
Yeah, so I don't have like a play on this game, but I am going to take Mississippi State. I think Arkansas's secondary is pretty beat up still. Missing Jalen Catalon, who's an excellent player, out for the season, and they still have injuries back there. So yeah, I'm taking Mississippi State at the 9 points. Yeah.
I'm going to take Mississippi State as well. KJ Jefferson banged up. Sounds like he's probably going to start quarterback for Arkansas, but I think Mississippi State wins this one, and I think they cover.
Let's make it unanimous across the board. Mississippi State. Is BYU Notre Dame, is that the Holy War? Is it the Holy War?
No, that's Utah BYU.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the in-state rivalry. Okay. Mox, -4. Notre Dame -4.
I'm going to go with Notre Dame. I think that BYU is going to struggle with their physicality on defense, and I didn't like what I saw from BYU at all against Utah State. I actually think Jaron Hall is a little banged up as well, so I am going to take Notre Dame. This is at a neutral field in Las Vegas, so give me the Irish.
I'm going to take BYU. I think they cover, or well, I mean, they're 4-point dogs. Like that just feels a little weird to me. I think even if they don't win a field goal, maybe I like BYU here.
Open at 2.5.
I agree. Jaron Hall, a player that some have considered as a first-round quarterback, he's got to be 24 now. Your mission is taking over for Zach Wilson there. And where is BYU? Where's BYU located? Provo, Utah. I'm taking BYU in this one too. Utah -3 at UCLA. Chris,
UCLA has impressed me a lot more than I thought they would on defense, but I still think they're going to struggle again with the physicality of this Utah team.
Yeah, I agree. I'm taking Utah. UCLA, it's going to be too much for them.
I am going to take UCLA also. Look at how much fun we had today on Better Sports Radio. I mean, we went through betting, we went through fantasy, we went through prize picks, and then we had our correspondent, Matt Bruning, call into the show. I vote
we send him somewhere crazy every week. That was...
Oh, yeah. We'll pay. Can we pay for that? Can we send him to week 7? Can we send him somewhere and have some fun with
USC Utah? Send him out to LA.
You got to download Better Sports app. You got to come hang out with us. You got to come have fun on Saturday morning. You got to stick around for Corey Harson and Tom Casale. They're going to continue to get you ready for the games. Austin Nace, Luke Sharp is the campus team crew. Come back next week. Have a good week. Peace.